Yeah, thanks very much, Yunten. It's really wonderful to be with everyone. We're coming to the exciting conclusion of our book, The Great Path of Awakening, by Jongin Khantrul, which is a 19th century commentary on a 12th century text. Tonight we're going to be talking about the sixth of the seven points of mind training. I want to apologize before I start. I want to apologize for not getting your outline out last week. I got really busy and worked Saturday and Sunday, so I was not able to put it all together. But it will be. It has been handed in tonight, and so hopefully you will have it in on the class page really soon. And then let's see. I think that's all for right now. So, and oh, I also wanted to say thanks to Lama Mark for our Mandarin translation. Really appreciate you being there for that, for our students. So, I think we'll go ahead and begin as we always do, with a prayer. So, if you would, Yunten, if you would, our host with the most, Yunten. We'll start with the Karma Kaju lineage supplication and then recite our refuge, bodhicitta, and so on. O dorje chan chen te lo naro dang marpa mi la chu je kam po pa du sum she ja kun kien karma pa che shi chun je ju pa zin nan da Drita tsao sum pa len dru pa sok sablam cha ja che lang nye pe nyam me drogen da po ka du la so adep so ka du la manam Jupa Tsin no nam tar chin ji lo Shen lo kom ki ka par sum pa jen Se nor kun la cha jem he pa dang Se dir du ta chu pe gom chen la Ne kur jen pa me par jin ji lo Mugu kom ki go war sum pa jen Me nga ter go je pe la ma la Chundu so wa de pe kom chen la Chu me mu gu ke war jin ji lo Yang me gong ki ngu jir sum pa jen Gan shar to pe ngo wo so ma de ma chu de ka jo pe kom chen la Gom ja lo dan dra war jin ji lo Nam tok mo wo chu ko sum pa jin chi yam ha yin chi yang char wa la ma ga ro pa cha we kom chen la Kor de her me to par jin ji lo Ke wa kun tu yan da la ma dang Drao me chu ki pa la lon chu ching Sa da lang ki yen ten rab so ne Doje changi go pan yer tosho. Doje changi go pan yer tosho. Now refuge in bodhicitta, which is recited 3 times. Or sanje chudang soji chonamla Jangchu pardu dani kyapsuchi Daji jinso jibe sunam ki Drola pinjir sanjay druparsho Sanjay chudan soji chonamla Jangchu pardu dani kyapsuchi Daji chinso jibe sunam ki Drola pinshir sanjay druparsho Sanjay chudan soji chonamla Jangchu pardu dani kyapsuchi Daji jinso jibe sunam ki Drola pinshir sanjay druparsho. Now the 4 immeasurables. Semchen tamche dewa tan dewe gyutan tempar gyurchik dunga tan dunga gyutan drawa churchik dunga mepe dewa tamba dam hindrawa churchik nerin chantan yidan drawe tonyen chen pola nepa jurchik Semchen tamje dewa tan dewe gyutan dimpar gyurchik dunga tan dunga gyutan trawa churchik dunga mepe dewa dampa dam hindrawa churchik nerin chantan yidan drawe tonyen chempola nepar jurchik Semchen tamche dewa dan dewe gyutan dimpar gyurchik dunga tan dunga gyutan trawa churchik dunga mepe dewa dampa dam min trawa churchik nerin chantan yidan drawe tonyen chempola nepar jurchik. And now the 7 branch prayer. O chatsawadam juchi shapadam Jesu yirang kurjin sohayi Gewa chunze dagi jisapa Tamche dagi janchu chirmo. Okay, thanks very much. I'll start with a short prayer of my own, and then we'll begin. O palden sawe lama rinpoche, dagi chiwar pede den shula, kadrin jembo kone je sunte, kursun taging udrup sal tu so. Okay, thanks everyone. Oh, it's wonderful to see everybody here this evening. Thank you so much for coming. This particular course on Lojong is a subject near and dear to my heart because when I was a young Buddhist, my teacher, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, made a point of teaching the 7-point mind training. And then when I became a teacher myself, he told me that it was very important to teach the 7-point mind training to beginning Dharma students after they had taken refuge and before they start their Mahamudra Nundro preliminaries. He said it's very important to study the 7-point mind training so that when you do your Mahamudra practice, whether it's the Mahamudra Nundro or Mahamudra itself, it's very important to train in the proper attitude. So he said if a person would take on the discipline of practicing the 7-point mind training, all the practice they do after that would go well and be successful. And he told me that Jamgon Khantrol's commentary was the best and that is what I should use to teach people with. He said, if you teach from the Jamgon Khantrol commentary, he said, you can't make a mistake, which is a relief to a person like myself who does not have an advanced degree in Buddhist studies and is kind of a so-so meditator. So it's really wonderful to have that. Interestingly enough, I have 3 editions of Great Path of Awakening. The oldest one is on my bookshelf over here, and it was published in the 1970s as a book that looked like it was done on a Xerox machine. Anyway, and then the second edition, the first trade paperback of it was published around 1985, thereabouts, by Shambhala. And then the newer edition was published in 2005, also by Shambhala. There's a slight difference in translation of the slogans, the 12th century slogans that are in this book between the 85 edition and the 85 edition and the 2005 edition. But that's okay because, hey, it's always going to be like that. Books get published and republished and translated and retranslated, and we learn a little bit more every time. So that's a little bit by way of introduction as to why this class is so important to me, and I hope it's important to you too. So, like I said at the top of the class, I'm really sorry that I didn't get last week's outline ready in time, but I feel pretty good because because now I'm ready with this week's outline. So we're going to have a little bit of everything here. Let's see if I can. Nope, that's not it. Here it is. Ta-da! So today we're going to be talking about point 6, the precepts of mind training. So let's see here. I'm making sure that everything good. Okay, there we go. So first things first, because I don't really have we don't have enough time tonight to start a discussion, at least not right now. Maybe when I finish the presentation, we'll have some time for questions and discussion. But I'm going to take a poll. You guys know how to do a poll. I ask a question, you raise your hand. It works pretty good if we can do it. So my first things first, I have to ask you, how is the practice going? So I'm going to stop the share for a second so I can see everybody. And you can use your raised hand function, which is in the reactions, I believe, under the reactions tab. You can either raise your hand in your view, or you can. Very good. Hey, well done, Richard. You've got it. You've got it. Okay, you guys know the drill. All right, excellent. So, all right. So here's the question: are you able to do some Lojong practice every day? Some kind of Lojong practice every day. Anybody? Are you good for it? We got a few. A little bit of Lojong practice okay, how about occasionally? Occasionally, like from time to time. Okay, you guys are doing well. All right. That's good. I have to kind of find out how you're doing, practice-wise. Okay, then the second question I'm going to poll you on, this is going to be a tougher one, and I think we're going to see fewer hands for this one. Has anybody tried to use the 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 seeds of virtue slogan in their everyday life? Anybody tried it? Ha! Oh, there's 2. All right. Way to go. Well, so what's going to happen here? Okay, way to go. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to actually like ask you. I saw Joseph, you had your hand up. David, you had your hand up. Could I ask the two of you to tell me about your experience? I'm going to ask you to unmute. Joseph, we'll have you start. You have to press the button to unmute. Uh-oh. I'm not hearing anything.
My stayed up from the question previously. I didn't know you had to put it down every time.
Oh yeah, got it. Okay. Oh, so you didn't.
No, not
Okay.
everybody.
That's all right. No
Sorry.
problem. Thank you though. All
I'm
right.
new to the whole hand thing.
Hey, I tell you what, I'm a human being and I can barely use the real ones, much less, okay. I'm
Exactly.
just, yeah, we're together on that. Okay. Thanks a lot. Okay. So let me see, David. I saw David had his hand up. Would you be able to tell us an example where you used it?
I don't have much of a voice right now.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
So
gosh, hold on. I'm calling all the wrong people tonight. If you
let me come.
if
Go
you
ahead.
want to pass, hey David, if you're not up to it, if you want to pass, you can.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, you
I'll
want to
swing back.
okay, very good. Yeah, all right. All right. So let's see. Lindsay, did I see you have your hand up? Did you try it or no? Okay, all right. Barbara, did you try it? Yeah, she's like, okay. All right. Well, then you know what this means? This means it's time for a remedial lesson. Oh, Barbara, you do have something to say. Okay. No, you want the remedial lesson. I see you. All right. We can't hear you, Barbara. Sorry about this. Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay.
Barbara, you can unmute now if you have something to say.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a number of years here and again, but the three things, I'm not sure. So I would like some remedial.
Okay, very good. I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you. Thank you. I appreciate your honesty too, So let's go to our copy of I have a scan of the 1985 edition, and I'll go over it with you. The reason I'd like to bring this up, it's kind of fun, because let's see if I can make this happen for you guys. I do like to bring this up because you remember when we learned when we were reviewing the practice, it said, there is a on the cushion practice and an off the cushion practice. And then, of course, the on the cushion practice for relative bodhicitta is Tonglen, right? The sending and receiving practice, which many of you have said that you've tried. And but there's also a Tonglen style practice that you can do in everyday life that doesn't depend on breathing out goodness and breathing in and removing suffering. And this is explained by the slogan, 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 seeds of virtue. And here's Jamgon Khantrul's explanation. The 3 poisons continually arise in connection with 3 objects. Attachment arises for objects that we find pleasant or useful. Aversion arises for objects that are unpleasant or harmful. And I like the way he translated that, stupidity or indifference for everything else. The instruction from Jamgon Khantrul is to recognize these mental poisons as soon as they arise. Well, let's be honest. We may not recognize them as soon as they arise. We may recognize them when we're halfway into saying things that we later will regret. If maybe we're really, really angry and we don't even know that we're angry until the angry words come out of our mouth. So what Jamgon Khantrul is encouraging us to do is to try to recognize these mental poisons, as fast as you can, as soon as you can in the process of feeling them. And in one of the previous classes, I talked about Pema Chodron the great American Buddhist teacher, who spoke about being able to notice mental afflictions arising through feelings that you get in your body. Like maybe if you feel rising anger, you'll feel some tightness and some heat in your chest. Or if you're really fearful, maybe you'll feel chills and cold. Or if you're feeling sad, the tears will start to flow. These physical cues help us to know how we are feeling. And mind training relies upon us recognizing how we are feeling and what we are thinking at any given time. Mind training works best when we are very mindful and are aware of what we are thinking, and when we are aware of what we're feeling. And so he's encouraging us to recognize them as soon as we can. So now the 3 objects, 3 poisons protocol goes like this. When attachment arises, think like this. And so what he's saying is, once you recognize and identify your feeling, anger, attachment, or whatever it might be, once you've identified it, he encourages you to use it I'm going to make a joke here, use it in a complete sentence. Put it into this formula so that you can actually begin to engage with it. Remember, in a previous class, we talked about the continuum of emotion. When we feel something, we tend to run away from it, especially if it's a difficult feeling. We either kind of stuff it down, pretending it isn't happening, or maybe we'll fountain off with some nastiness. But in neither case, neither stuffing it down nor wildly expressing it is really coping with and engaging with our feelings. We're just trying to offload them in some way. But Lojong encourages us to stay present with the feeling, and then turn that feeling into an aspiration for goodness by plugging it into this formula. So he's saying attachment, for example. Jamgon Kongtrul says, think like this. May every bit of every sentient being's attachment be contained in this attachment of mine. May all sentient beings have the seed of a virtue of being free of attachment. May this attachment of mine contain all their disturbing emotions, and until they attain Buddhahood, may they be free. May they be free of such disturbing emotions. And you can change this for whatever feeling it is. Maybe it's sadness. Maybe it's anger. May every bit of every sentient being's anger be contained in this anger of mine, and so on. And in other words, normally when we have a negative feeling, we run away. But what if we just stayed with the feeling for a moment and then turned that feeling into a prayer? How differently we would feel once we did that. In other words, we take something that's very mundane and possibly negative, and we turn it into something positive. And so Jamgon Kongtrul says, aversion and other emotions are used in practice by working with them in the same way. And in this way, thus, the 3 poisons become 3 limitless seeds of virtue. Not only, if we can use this formula, not only can we avoid accumulating negative karma, we can actually accumulate positive karma. Usually I don't take questions while I'm speaking, David, but let me go ahead and take your question, because I suspect that you wanted to say something from earlier.
So I'm sorry. I had some water. I think I have a little bit of a voice. So, but after what you just said, I think I used it right, but I'm not 100% sure.
Sure, go ahead.
But last week, the eating disorder program, I'm a child psychiatrist, eating disorder program I work in, terminated the positions of our nurse and our certified nursing assistant.
Oh, that's fine.
And that led to the nurse and I, we worked together for 2 years and we spoke every day. So we've become very close friends.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of attachment there. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of sadness.
Mm-hmm.
And there was also a lot of anger at the agency for what I thought was short-sighted.
Mm.
And none of those, we had to, we still had to see patients the next day.
Yeah,
So I had to let that go and focus on
right. The patients.
job at hand and the patients that were still going to show up at 7:30 the next morning
Sure.
and expect to be treated and should be treated. So I had to let those emotions go
Mhm,
and focus on
mhm,
what was right in front of me, which were in that case the patients.
mhm.
So
I'll
that
tell
was my example. I'm not sure that's exactly right, but
Yeah, well, let's put it this way. Let's put it this way. It may not have been you saying the formula, but you enacted the formula. Does that make sense?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, and whether we enact the formula in our activity, whether we enact it in our activity, or if we can't enact it in our activity, or we actually, or perhaps we are able to, to say this, to use the formula, that's great. But yeah, whether it's an enactment or whether it is a statement we make internally, all that is good. So uh, I appreciate you sharing that experience with us, because a lot of people will have these kinds of experiences. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Yeah, it sounds good. And I'm sorry that happened in the agency. I'll tell you what, we're seeing a lot of difficult situations right now. It's going to be,
Yeah.
it may get worse before it gets better, but I appreciate
Yeah.
you sharing.
Sadly, I think you're right. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you for your practice. So, what I encourage people to do is I encourage people to make a photocopy of this formula, just this one little paragraph, and maybe paste it to your desk or something at work, or maybe put it somewhere at home, maybe on your refrigerator where you'll see it every day, and recite it to yourself every single day out loud once. Just do it out loud once. And then over 6 months, you'll slowly remember it by heart. And once you've memorized it by heart, then it will slowly come up for you when you need it, like when you're feeling something that's complicated, right? Then you'll be able to turn rather than go down the drain with your attachment or your aversion. You'll be able to use that feeling to create an aspiration for all beings to be free of these negative emotions. And I want to also bring one other thing to you. Do you remember when we were talking about the third point of mind training? When evil fills the world and its inhabitants, change adverse conditions into the path of awakening. Jamgon Control says, when your world is full of the pain and suffering that are the fruition of our evil karma, when prosperity and wealth are diminishing, troublesome people create difficulties, he says you must change the adverse conditions in which you find yourself into the path of awakening. And I want to review this today because this has this one sentence: you must change the adverse conditions in which you find yourself into the path of awakening. The reason I want to bring this up is because point 6 expands that really, really in a really big way. And so I want to at least come back to the 3 objects slogan here for a second, and then to this slogan for a second, just to kind of tell you that what we're going to talk about is this must. Now, you may say to yourself, why am I a stickler for this one word? You must change adverse conditions. The reason I think that he is so definite about this, that Jamgon Control is so heavy-handed about this, is because every time we give in to one of our negative mental afflictions and enact that negative mental affliction, whether we are mad at ourselves or mad at other people or belittle ourselves or belittle other people, whatever negative thing we feel that we then give into and go down the drain with, that generates negative karma. And that negative karma gives us the tendency to want to do that bad thing over and over and over again. So in a way, anytime we can disrupt a bad habit, even if it's just once a week, If we can disrupt the bad habit of going down the drain with our negative mental afflictions and instead turn them into that positive aspiration, at any time, even just one a week or maybe one a month, it doesn't matter. Even if you change it once, it's going to actually start a new momentum. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche was really definite about this. He said, we have been practicing these negative mental afflictions for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. At some point, we must make a change. And so anyway, I just had to share this with you because I really love to encourage people to do these practices, because I keep hearing people who come to me saying, guess what? I was able to use the 3 objects slogan and my mind suddenly felt this peace. There was a gentleman who came to the question microphone at Columbus KTC and said, I want to share what happened when I used this slogan. And when I used the slogan, he said, it's like a great weight was lifted from his shoulders and he no longer felt the reactiveness. So I'm just saying, if you can, try. So that's my 85-cent commercial for changing things into the path. Okay. Sorry. Now I really do have to kind of get back to my lesson, but I have to give these commercials from time to time. So because I spent so much time on this, we're going to skip the recap from last week. Just to say, like Mahamudra, Lojong is a complete system of training that results in Buddhahood. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said Lojong was important for Vajrayana practitioners. But it is a complete system. It has preliminaries, it has a main practice, and it has enhancement and corrections. So we're now in the enhancement and correction part of the Lojong system. Okay. So now tonight we're going to talk about point 6, the precepts of mind training. If you remember back to Khenpo Tenkyong's presentation on point 5, Khenpo Ten covered ways for us to measure the success of our practice. But now we're moving on to point 6, where we build on everything we've learned on points 1 through 5. How does a Lojong practitioner live their life? And more particularly, how should a mind training practitioner behave? They should use according to Jamgon Khantrul, they should use the 2 kinds of bodhicitta: relative bodhicitta, which is love and compassion, and that they should care for themselves and for others, and ultimate bodhicitta, which is wisdom and emptiness, understanding the nature of mind and reality as often as you can. In Great Path of Awakening, and you won't see this exact quote until either next week or the week after next, as we cover point 7. In point 7, he compares Lojong to Yidam practice, the Vajrayana practice of mantra meditation, or Yidam practice, in which a meditator takes a particular Buddha or Bodhisattva as their Yidam, or the word Yi means mind, and Dam involves a bond. So, or mind bond deity. In Yidam practice, the samaya, or precept of the practitioner, is to constantly cultivate thoughts of sacred outlook, meaning we try to imagine ourselves as the deity in all circumstances and seeing our everyday world as an extension of the deity's sacred mandala. This is a very difficult practice to do, but many people have undertaken this. They've chosen, perhaps Chenrezig or Tara as their Yidam deity. They pray to the deity every day. They imagine that the deity blesses them. They become the deity. And then after they dissolve everything into emptiness, they become the deity again, dedicate their merit, and then get up and walk around the world thinking that they and all beings in their world are Chenrezig or Tara or whatever deity they're practicing. So Yidam practice is a way of really integrating Dharma in every aspect of your daily life. And Jamgon Khantrul compared Lojong to Yidam practice in that we we embed these practices into our everyday thinking. So if we take Lojong as our version of Yidam practice, what are our promises? What precepts do we take? How should we behave? And so to start the explanation, I'm going to quote somebody else, not Chikawa Yoshidorje. Or Jamgon Control, I'm going to quote Ngujul Togme Zangpo, who wrote the 37 Actions of a Bodhisattva. Those of you who know this practice well, this is number 36. In brief, whatever conduct one engages in, one should ask, what is the state of my mind? Accomplishing others' purpose through constantly maintaining mindfulness and awareness. That's the Bodhisattva's practice. So this is, I guess you could say, an encapsulation of how a mind training practitioner should behave. Before I go any further, though, and start getting into the slogans themselves of point 6, I want to kind of go off topic, or what sounds like going off topic, for a second, and talk about the role of spiritual teachers in our lives. A reason I'm going to bring this up is that for the Lojong practitioner, Great Path of Awakening is equivalent to a portable teacher. Okay, it's like your portable teacher. You can take it with you everywhere. And I'll tell you more about that in a second. So let's face it, folks, if we are left on our own, we might lead ourselves astray. We may not be a very good teacher to ourselves. We may not be the best guru for ourselves, but we keep trying. Anyhow, I like to quote a slogan from the 12-step recovery tradition. As you know, I've spoken before about being an Al-Anon in the past, and the slogans that my dad, as a recovering alcoholic, shared with me, stay with me even now. I consider them to be secular mind training slogans, okay? So one of my dad's slogans, he says, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. This is not perfect English grammar. So if Kempo Sanjay is watching this is not proper English, and I'll have to tell you how later on. But anyway, but if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. It's gotten, by the way. Anyhow, so teachers are necessary to challenge us, to actually be an example to us, to be an example, but also to challenge us so that we become the very best version of ourselves. They see our Buddha nature. We may not even see it, but they see our Buddha nature and want to urge us toward awakening, and they try to do so in any way possible. If you remember a few classes ago, I spoke about Kempo Karthar Rinpoche's translator, Ngudra Burkhar, who told me one time that when Kempo Karthar Rinpoche first started teaching in America, he would sit up nights with Ngudra and think, how can I get through to this person? How can I get through to that person? How can I get through to that person? He was really very focused on how to help, because he wanted us to let our bad habits go and take on new ones. So we have to have a teacher. I know a lot of people think that teachers are a lot of bother, and they prefer to guide themselves, but I think we need to pay attention to how we might end up fooling ourselves if we try to be our own teacher. And we'll get into that more in a minute. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, in the book Empowerment, and I think it's also in his omnibus, his big collection, he wrote an essay about the phases of our relationship with a teacher. In the first example, he said, when we first meet our teacher, the teacher's like the emergency room doctor. We feel broken, so we go to the teacher and say, fix me. So we really rely on them as for a lot. But after a while, we okay, we're having a windstorm here, so there is a chance that I will lose power. If I do, I will, if I do, I'll find a way to get this completed for you. Anyway, so in the second phase of our relationship with our teacher, we see the teacher more like a friend. And as we get closer and closer to them, I see. I just got a report. We have a brownout. Okay, well, anyhow, so we'll take it bit by bit. So this spiritual friend becomes closer and closer to us. And at first we think they're a buddy, and they are. But what happens is that they begin to mind our business, saying such things as very gently, perhaps, or maybe not very gently, it would really be good if you stopped hurting yourself. Or, oh, it would be really good if you stopped hurting other people. In other words, they begin to mind our business for our benefit to help us become better people. And then finally, the teacher becomes the master and teaches us and introduces us to the spiritual and the sacred world. So anyway, that's just a little bit of discussion. In Great Path of Awakening, the text itself is a teacher to us. The text itself is a teacher. And in point 6, our teacher, this book,
Lama Kathy got knocked out, but she is joining again, so she should be back here shortly. She just got disconnected. We'll give her a couple minutes to see if she gets back in again.
thank you for your patience. We did have a power loss. And I'm concerned that I might lose internet, so I switched to digital tethering, which may or may not be effective. We're going to just have to see about that. How am I doing?
It's working fine. The quality's good and everything.
Great. I'm going to go ahead and plug in my cell phone here. Yeah, so we have a thunderstorm warning until about 9:15 tonight, so Eastern time. And so the frontal system's coming through now, which is why we have all the wind. And I live in a rural area, so anything can happen. All right, so let's go back to the to what we were looking at here. There it is. Okay. So here we are. All right. Just to recap what I just said, I can hear the thunder. Here we go. If the Great Path text is our teacher, in point 6, our teacher is beginning to mind our business by asking that we dig deep with mindfulness, practice radical self-honesty with a lot of courage, and constantly challenge ourselves to surrender ego clinging, ego fixation and ego clinging with strength. That we have to do something to
She's joining again, so she should be here momentarily.
he calls little schemes. Point 6. Point 6 asks us to see through our schemes and instead be good examples of Lojong transformation for ourselves and for others. So that's, I wanted to get through that much at least. And I decided to do something for you. I hope this is helpful. I copied out the entirety of the, I used cut and paste methods to produce a list of the slogans. Now, I want to apologize. The list of slogans is coming from the 1985 edition, because otherwise I wouldn't have had time to type all them in. And as you know, in the 2005 edition, the slogans did change. The translations changed a bit, so I want to apologize for that. But the numbering system is correct. So let's look at point 6 and see what it has to say to us. Okay, the commitments of mind training. So so he starts this section, let's see, by saying, Jogger Control starts the section. I'm going to refer to my 2005 edition. He says, of the 3 basic principles, the first is not to break the promises you've made in mind training. That is, not to be tarnished by any fault in the 3 types of, he calls them ordinations, which is a weird kind of word, but you should do your best to not break any of your Hinayana vows, such as your refuge vow and your lay precepts or your monastic precepts. Secondly, you should and also not break any of your Vajrayana Samayas. Then the second principle, he said, is not to act scandalously, which is to refrain from scandalous acts, such as destroying shrines, disturbing trees, polluting rivers, associating with lepers and beggars, and other ways you might behave in hope that others will think you have no ego clinging. You're going to see this type of thinking a lot in the next 2 sections, in point 6 and point 7. He's trying to point out how we're being dishonest. It's not that it's a bad thing to associate with lepers and beggars. That is not what he is saying. He's saying if you do it in order to have benefit for yourself and make people think that you're a holy person, if you do it for the reason of deceiving people, he doesn't want anybody to show off. Showing off is a big no-no for him. So instead, he says, instead, make your way of life and practice utterly pure and faultless. And then the third principle that we're supposed to keep is to avoid being one-sided. For instance, although you may be patient with the trouble people cause, you may not be patient with the trouble caused by gods or demons, or vice versa. Or you may be able to handle those situations, but be impatient with suffering such as illness or disease. Maybe you can be patient with all sorts of difficult situations, but then you let your practice of Dharma lapse when you are happy and comfortable. The commitment is to avoid any bias or one-sidedness in mind training. So always practice that. So that's the first thing. Then the next one is change your intention or change your attitude, but remain natural. I just want to bring this up here. To change in reverse, he says to change in reverse your previous intention of concern only with your own welfare and lack of concern for the welfare of others. Take only the welfare of others as being important. Since all mind training should be practiced with little fanfare but great effectiveness, remain as natural as possible, keeping your manners and conducts like those of your friends and associates in Dharma. So a couple of my friends read this and said, hey, does this mean that when I'm hanging out with my work friends, I should act like they do and gossip about the boss? And I'm like, no, that is not what he's getting at here. You have to try to be like your friends and associates in Dharma, not the folks that you go and play tennis with, not the folks that you go to game night with, and definitely not the people who lead you into bad behavior. Not like that. In other words, he doesn't want you to act like a stuck-up person who is superior to others. This is, again, big no-no as far as John Control is concerned, for you to put on airs and pretend to be something. The next one, now the teacher of this book is really going to start minding our business. First, he's going to tell us not to talk about things. It says, don't talk about other shortcomings or weak points. And then he says, don't discuss unpleasant subjects, other people's faults in worldly matters, or faults in spiritual matters. Talk cheerfully about pleasant topics in a gentle and friendly manner. In other words, he wants us to start really paying attention to how we talk. He wants us to pay attention to how much we gossip about ourselves or others, and how we secretly dismiss and disrespect other people in order that we feel better about ourselves. So we have to watch for negative motivation in this regard. And I told you previously about going to work with going to lunch with some of my work friends, and all they could do was gossip about the boss. And I said, look, we didn't invite the boss to lunch. Can we leave him in the office, please? Because there's just, it causes other people's mental afflictions to get worse and worse and worse. Now, I'm going to tell a story that's going to sound very strange, but this past weekend, and let the record show that today is June 18th, 2025. Last weekend, there was a demonstration in my downtown, in my little town, against the policies of the current president. Well, there were lots of people there protesting and so forth. And then some of the president's supporters came to the same place and started revving their pickup trucks' engines really loud to drown out the speakers and things. And somebody in the demonstration crowd started telling them off in foul language. And one of this very quiet young man went and touched that person who was shouting back at the president's supporters, saying, no, we're not going to do that today. This is not how we're going to respond. This is not how we're going to do this. And I love that story, because this is how people change their behavior, is by realizing what they are doing to themselves when they gossip. What are they doing to themselves when they use negative speech and speech that causes division and harm? Anyhow, just wanted to bring that up. So he's telling us, our teacher is telling us, don't badmouth other people or yourself in your own mind and with your words. But then he goes even deeper. He says, don't think about the affairs of others, or in the New Translation, don't dwell on others' problems. So it says, do not think about other people's problems, in general, the faults of any sentient being, but in particular, the faults of anyone who has entered the practice of Dharma. Rather, think like this: seeing this fault is due to the impurity in my own outlook. Such a fault is not in this person. I am like those people who saw faults in the Buddha, the Enlightened One. I have to confess, this is very difficult. And I think that a lot of my Dharma friends could not do this. They couldn't say that a person with faults has no faults. They couldn't do that. So let's try and do something else. Let's try and encourage them to have a different attitude. And that attitude is, you look at the person who has faults and who is doing wrong, and you rather than stewing about them or trying to get other friends to go against them, what you can do instead is to remember that they are a sentient being who is suffering, and try your best not to hate them for their behavior. Sometimes that's all you can do, is just not hate them for their behavior. And so this may be a very, very difficult thing to do, but it's important that you think about it. In addition, 12-step recovery tradition has a slogan: if you spot it, you got it. Meaning, if you see bad behavior in someone else, it's because you have it too, and you can't stand it. Bokhar Rinpoche, the late Bokhar Rinpoche, spoke to our retreat house during my 3-year retreat, and he said, "Look, when you're living with somebody day in and day out, it's easy to start making mental grudges against one another." And he said, "You really shouldn't do this." He said, "But what you should recognize is that if somebody else's behavior bothers you, it's because somewhere inside you also have that, and you just can't take it. So work on your own faults and don't worry about the faults of others." So that's something to keep in mind. The next slogan is work on the stronger disturbing emotions first. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, in his book, Dharma Paths, suggests that the Dharma practitioner make a list of their worst faults. I tell people, pick your top 2 or your top 3 negative mental afflictions or negative habits and write them down for yourself. And he said there's 2 reasons why. Number 1, this way you'll know what your goals are and what you are working on the most. And you should pick the biggest ones first, the ones that are really hard for you to work with. And then he said the other reason that listing them is important is so that you will be more patient with your friends and relatives who point out those faults to you. And your teacher will also point those faults out to you. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said, frequently students will go to their teacher and say, "Oh, teacher, please tell me about my faults." He said, "We don't generally need to do that because your everyday life points them out to you." So in any case, he said, why can't you have the same attitude toward your friends when they are trying to help you change your bad habits? The next slogan is give up all hope for results. You remember way back at the beginning of this class, I said that mind training literature contains a lot of exaggeration and irony and so on. Here is an example of irony because he's saying give up all hope for results. Well, you and I both know that by practicing Lojong, we hope to accomplish love and compassion and wisdom and emptiness. But what he's saying here, and Jamgon Khantrul makes it very clear, he's saying give up all hope for results that benefit you, that people will think you're good, that people will think you're great, that people will admire you, and so forth. Give up the hope for results that affect your reputation and so on. So give up that kind of hope. You can't give up hope on practice. You've got Buddha nature. How can you give up? Then the next one is give up poisonous food. And what this is, he says, since all virtuous thoughts and actions motivated by clinging to a concrete reality or to a self-cherishing attitude are like poisoned food, give them up. Learn how not to cling, but to know the phantom-like nature of experience. So when we do things hoping that others will admire us, when we are generous to someone hoping they will give us something in return, that's what he's talking about here. He's saying purify your attitude when you are generous. Purify your attitude when you're patient. Just watch your motivation all the time and change it when it's not pure. Because in this way, we give up poisonous food. Next, don't rely on consistency. The new translation is don't rely on a sense of duty. And so here again is a little bit of irony, a little exaggeration. Because consistency is usually thought to be a benefit among human society. People should be consistent, but this is the kind of consistency he's talking about. He's talking about the consistency of holding a grudge. And this is how he explains that. He says, a person who has a sense of duty in his affairs doesn't forget the people who concern him, no matter where he is or how much time has gone by. When someone causes you trouble and has made you angry, You might never let go of that resentment. Stop it. I love Jamgon Khattrul. He's acting like our teacher. The book itself says, stop it. Take a helpful attitude or action in response to someone who causes trouble. Now, these are not easy things to do. And in fact, in many cases for us, the way we are right now, these are going to be impossible. But we shouldn't judge ourselves too negatively and just always remember we're on the path and we're training. So it's going to be baby steps. Even if you can take one step toward not holding a grudge, that's a positive step. Then the next one, don't be excited by cutting remarks. I'm really sorry, folks. Political humor is fun. And let's face it, we love it. But we have to remember that it is not a victimless crime. When we make fun of others and we delight in harsh words that cut to the quick, we're actually damaging our own compassion and love and our own capacity for compassion and love and receiving compassion and love. So he's encouraging us. He's policing our thoughts and telling us, human beings, I know how you are. Please don't do this. And then he says also, don't wait in ambush. And he says, don't make things painful. What he's trying to say is that if we have a grudge, how many like slogans are all about grudges here? Do you think that's something that human beings do? Do you think that's one of our biggest problems? That we can't let go of something? I think that's it. So he's telling us, please don't wait for the opportunity to take your revenge. Don't do that. And don't say harsh words that you know will hurt people. It's again, not a victimless crime. It turns you into someone you don't want to become. Then the old translation is don't put the horse's load on a pony. Here it's don't put the ox's, let's see, yeah. Don't put the ox's weight on a cow, load on a cow, right? Whatever. Basically, he says to give someone else an unpleasant job that is your responsibility, or by resorting to trickery to shift a problem you have encountered to someone else, is like putting a horse's load on a pony. Don't do this. Again, the book is becoming our teacher and really, really strongly reminding us reminding us to be self-honest, to be honest about our true thoughts, our true feelings, and not hide our feelings from ourselves and not hide our bad motivations, to try to grab hold of those motivations and change them. Because all of us have done this. I've done it, you've done it, we've all done it. The next one is don't aim to win. In the new translation, it's don't be competitive. And this is where he uses the word little schemes. In a horse race, the aim is to be the fastest. Among Dharma people, there are often hopes of receiving more attention or becoming more highly regarded than others. And little schemes are made up to find ways to acquire possessions. Give these up. Have no concern about receiving or not receiving recognition or prestige. Oh, these are hard to hear, but I have to tell you, if you can actually take these to heart and not do these things, you will save yourself so much internal pain and anguish. Next one, the old translation is don't revert to magic. The new translation is don't make practice a sham. He says, if you accept a setback for the time being out of a desire for future benefits for yourself, or if you practice mind training expecting to cure illness and mental disturbances and ward off adverse situations, your practice is wrong, like hypocritical charlatans. Don't act this way. Whatever happens, happiness or sorrow comes, meditate without arrogance, hesitation, fear, or hope. And everybody's used the word magical thinking at one point in time. Sometimes people tell me, I thought that when I started Dharma practice that nothing bad would ever happen to me ever again. And now I'm incredibly disappointed because bad things are happening to me and they shouldn't because I practice Dharma. Well, we have karma, and sometimes our pain and suffering is the fruition of our past karma. Sometimes we purify our karma through Dharma practice, yes, and people have better circumstances, but sometimes it isn't like that. The other thing he's warning us against is being fake. He's warning us against thinking, oh, now I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to be some kind of holy person who can cast out devils and cure illness and things like that. Again, he's trying to discourage people from this type of thinking because it changes Dharma into non-Dharma. And I'm going to take a little historical note here for a second. Those of you who have this book, I'm going to read something to you that Jamgon Khantrul wrote, and I'll give you the shortest sketch of why I think he wrote it. He goes off on a tangent here, and he even apologizes at the end for going off on this tangent. But if you read his life story, there's a reason. When he was a young man, Jamgon Khantrul was recognized immediately as an unusual person, a genius, really. And he was coveted by several different monasteries. In fact, the Tibetan government tried to requisition him, but they said, oh no, he's one of our tulkus, you can't take him. So one of the monasteries he lived in, the teachers in that monastery did not believe in treasure texts. And treasure texts are all attributed to the great master Guru Rinpoche, or Padmasambhava, who, when he left Tibet, was said to have secreted teachings for future generations to discover or find. These treasures, or terma in Tibetan, were then later found in later centuries by tertans, or treasure revealers. Jamgon Khantrul himself was a treasure revealer. And one of the monasteries that he lived in had an authority there who thought that treasure texts were fake and weren't real Dharma, and forced him to recant his treasures. And he did so because he was young, and then he became deathly ill. And it wasn't until he met another treasure revealer, Chocha Dechen Lingpa, who we know as the author of our Green Tara text that we use at KTD and KTC centers. Chocha Dechen Lingpa said, I know what the problem is. You were forced to reject and recant your treasures. So I am going to give you a practice that I found, he said, as a treasure. And if you do this practice, you will be cured. And Jamgon Khantrul did the practice and was cured. Now, knowing this episode from his life, now we're going to go over his rant. He goes on a tangent here. If you are in the book, in the gold book with the blue stripe, this is page 35. If you are in the old gold book, this is on page 33. Okay. He says, with this example, he says, consider the topic of mistaken Dharma practice. And then he really gives some really, really strong fatherly advice. Mistaken outlooks are outlooks based on eternalism or nihilism. Mistaken meditation is meditation that clings to some sublime state. Mistaken conduct is conduct that is not consistent with the three ordinations, meaning the Hinayana vows, the Mahayana vows, and the Vajrayana vows. Mistaken Dharma denotes anything that is contradictory to the ethics or outlook authoritatively taught in the holy Dharma, regardless of whom it comes from, you or someone else, the very best or the very least. It will propel you into samsara in the lower realms. It's like taking the wrong medicine for an illness or applying the wrong disciplinary measures. So now the rant begins. There are individuals who call certain composed and revealed works mistaken Dharma without examining the words or thoughts in a single chapter to see whether they are pure or mistaken. It would appear that they issue their pronouncements out of attachment to their own systems or from personal differences. It is said that no one but a Buddha is able to evaluate the worth of an individual. So even though you may not like a person who has arrived at a proper outlook and ethics, your dislike doesn't make the Dharma mistaken. For example, a merchant may sell gold or glitter, but it doesn't make him a better or worse merchant. Buddha said over and over again, don't rely on individuals, rely on the Dharma. Now, I have to make a note here as a reader. There's a mistake here. The next words, I make this digression here because it is so important to understand this point. The Buddha did not say that. It was when they reformatted the book for republishing. In the old edition it's properly a new paragraph. Anyway, sorry, I get nitpicky about these things, but so what he's saying is that treasure texts, if they reflect the pure Dharma taught by the Buddha and are not in contradiction with it, are perfectly acceptable teachings that can be used and practiced, and that people shouldn't discriminate against them because they don't like the idea of treasures being found. So I thought I thought Jamgon Khantrul was actually quite restrained. If it's a rant, he did a pretty good job of holding his cool. Okay, finally, don't turn a god into a demon and don't seek pain as a component of happiness. Then don't reduce a god to a demon, or don't turn a god into a demon. Here's what he says. If, as you meditate on mind training, your personality becomes stiff with pride and arrogance, it's as though you have turned a god into a demon. Dharma has become non-dharma. The more you meditate on mind training and Dharma, the more supple your personality, the more flexible your personality should become. Act as the lowest servant to everyone. I wish every one of us could read this out loud to themselves every single day so that we don't become overly proud of ourselves as Dharma practitioners. It's just so beautiful. The more you meditate on mind training and Dharma, the more gentle and supple your personality should become. Someone shared on Facebook something with me today. They shared an old video that Dakota Lane had made of Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche with a toy frog. And I'll try to put the link to that in the notes for tonight so you can all watch it and see Rinpoche. But what you'll see Rinpoche do is take this toy and act as though it is a real being. He'll touch it. He'll look at it with admiration and kindness. It's just an amazing teaching to watch him interact with inanimate objects, because he even said this himself later on. He said, great masters will always interact gently with everybody and everything. So sorry, folks, no more slamming doors. You get the idea. We got to try to be more measured in all of our behavior. And then lastly, don't seek pain as a component of happiness. And in the new translation, don't look to profit from sorrow. And again, look at what he's doing. He's reaching into our minds and showing us our bad behavior, the bad behavior of our thoughts, our hidden thoughts that we don't even tell ourselves about. And so, one moment. If my throat becomes too dry, I end up in a coughing spasm. So Jamgon Khantrul is going to warn us. Here he says, don't think if that person or patron should become ill or die, I would receive a lot of food and money for the funeral. Or, quote, if this fellow monk or these Dharma companions were to die, I would obtain their images and books. Or, if my colleagues were to die, all the merit would come to me alone. Or wouldn't it be wonderful if all my enemies were to die? In a word, you must refrain from hoping for suffering to come to others as a way of extending your own comfort and happiness. Schadenfreude is out of style as far as Jahn control is concerned. Schadenfreude is the probably mispronounced German phrase referring to taking joy in others' suffering. This is very fashionable now in all kinds of places. People take joy in what they call owning somebody, meaning insulting a person. And I think we have to be incredibly, or trolling, that's another one, an online, which is online harassment and insulting of a person. And sometimes we do this, and I had to really stop doing it. And now I try to encourage my friends to not do it either, because it just adds to the general negative tenor online. The other thing is wishing for your enemies to die is extremely bad, and you shouldn't do it. And Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche tells the story in his of something that happened in his own life to illustrate this point. When he was in 3-year retreat, there were border skirmishes going on between two rival warlords in his region, and one of them was the warlord, or the head, the clan head, who was a part of his own region. And one day, while he was reciting the daily Mahakala protector ritual, he formed a negative wish for that rival chieftain to be struck down. And not long after that, a really wise master came to visit all of them in retreat. And he told the group that they had to watch themselves for mistaken thoughts and ideas. And he said, and you must not treat the protectors as your errand boys, he said. And Khenpo Rinpoche was overcome. He said he was overcome with remorse. And he terminated that faulty attitude of mind, he said, going forward. So we may not, be in his situation, but we've been in others. And so it's important for us to recognize this. I can't believe it. I got through all of them. Maybe not completely, but I gave you the best I could on that. And we still have like 8 minutes. So if you're not too tired and you have questions, you can type them into chat. I'm incredibly pleased that I was able to get through them, because it's a lot of slogans. It's a lot. And if you don't have any questions, that's all right. We can conclude. Yes, Tom.
Where
Yes.
am I
Hey.
at? How are you? Can I just unmute myself? I just did unmute myself. Thank you. I'm going through all our texts here. I got my books out, like you said.
Hey, way to go.
My other copy.
Hey, I'll tell you, they're great.
And also Traveling Path of Compassion, 37. My question was, when we were going over these things here, we gave up, number 27 was give up all hope of results.
Correct.
Give aim to win. Also in the 37 practice of bodhisattvas, there's also giving victory to others.
And
I was
accepting
wondering,
defeat. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
exactly, if these are basically all parallels of the same thought in that matter.
I think they are. I do think they are, because if you look at the which one is handier for you right now? Is
I
it
got
this?
all three in front of me. Which one you got?
Okay. Now let's go for this one. Let's go for the one with the blue stripe. It's really interesting. We were just talking, oh, wait a minute. I just had a 70-year-old brain fade. We were talking about.
So he went through give up all hope of results.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Victory to others.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that's if we go to, you'll get a kick out of this. It's in the introduction. It's in the translator's introduction.
Mhm.
So it's on page XIV or
Okay,
Roman numeral 14.
14.
And
Oof,
if you look at the bottom of the page,
yes.
during a visit to a friend, Chikawa Yoshidorji caught sight of an open book on a bed and read these lines: "Give all victory to others,
Mhm.
take defeat for yourself." Intrigued by this unfamiliar idea, he sought out the author and learned that the lines he read came from the 8 verses of mind training by Longri Tongpa. This is the text the Dalai Lama has taught endlessly. It's like the Dalai Lama's favorite mind training text. The 8 stanzas of thought transformation. This is one of them. And so although Longri Tongpa had already died, Chikawa Yoshidorji was able to find another teacher who had received the same transmission, and then he studied the 8 stanzas for 12 years. And so here's what I learned about it. Khenpo Urgyen Tenzin of KTD gave a marvelous teaching on the 8 stanzas. And when he got to the part about give all victory to others, accept defeat for yourself, he said it begins with not retaliating when you are harmed. He says it starts there. It starts with just the wish not to get even, not to take revenge. And he said, then it can go even farther. As you train, you can get even more willing to give up victory. But at the beginning, it means not to strike back. Just let them have their win. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And not strike back. But yes, I do believe that mind training in general is based on these principles. And if you look at it, the 8 stanzas is what Chikawa Yoshidorji, the author of the 7-point mind training, practiced diligently under one of Longri Tongpa's disciples, essentially, right? For 12 years. And then that gave rise to this formulation. Luchul Togme Zangpo, who wrote the 37 practices, I get my years all mixed up. I'm going to have to look that up and see who he was contemporary with. Unless y'all have a Google thing, you can tell me what years he lived. But anyway, does that help you, Tom?
Yeah, it helps you out a lot. I always said the Chicago Bears are bodhisattvas because they give victory to others. So that works out pretty well.
Oh yeah. No, I get it. I really do.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Lama
You have
Kathy.
time?
Really appreciate
Hey,
it.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Okay, any other takers? I love these conversations. They're great. Well, okay. Oh, yes. Larson.
All right. I've got one, and I've been, it's an ongoing situation. I've been uh, working with it as a focus of this practice and just my practice in general. But I kind of want to pose this question to you and maybe even to the group. My wife and I run a community herbal clinic down here in Gainesville, Florida.
Okay.
And the block where our clinic is a block where we have a lot of houseless people who live and hang out, and there's a couple who
Yeah.
sleeps in the kind of the porch area out front of our shop,
Okay.
and we, half the time we get along really well, and then half the time when they're usually it's whenever they're really frankly just going on benders. They
Oh,
they get real. It's
yeah.
they get aggressive. They are like rude and like confrontational to people who are coming into our clinic.
Right.
With health issues, and
Sure.
it's started
Right.
to shape
Yeah.
into an issue, and it seems to
Mhm.
only be escalating. And I wonder, in that situation, so like for me personally, I can look at I try to find as much grace as I can give them, and as part of my practice, me personally.
Sure.
But for the people who are coming into the clinic, they aren't necessarily on that path, and maybe
Right. That's correct.
maybe this is not
Right.
you could look at it as, oh well, maybe this could like call them into
I get it.
finding that in their heart. Maybe not, but like they haven't made that agreement, with themselves.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
So in that situation, I thought to myself, well, like maybe, do I just relentlessly try to continue to have uh like established pleasantries even in the face of like just like anger and aggression and violent confrontation, in the hopes that it will, or maybe not in hopes of anything, but what do you think? What would you do? Is really what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question to be, first of all, I'm sorry that you're going through this and that, the people who are, unhoused are going through this. And I'm really, really sorry that your customers have to do this. Let me ask you a question, an important one too, is, is the couple in front of your shop all day?
Well, no, so that's part of it. Sometimes yes. So we have an agreement that works like half the time, which is, you know, if you would just please not be out front while people are coming in and out of the shop, then, we're fine with y'all doing whatever. And,
Right.
half the time it's fine. Then other times when that's
Yeah.
not happening,
Yeah.
it's like, well,
Right.
let's see what happens. And invariably,
Right.
we
Right.
see there being a confrontation outside,
Right.
or there will be a confrontation with me or my wife. Sometimes my wife is there by herself, and it's just not a great situation.
So what have you tried already?
We've tried, having, that agreement of like, hey, if you're just not
Sure.
here whenever people are coming
Agreement.
out, it's fine.
Okay. Good. And what else?
Then other times just saying, well, it's getting into the afternoon, guys. Like, this is kind of our agreement. Like, I see you
I
out
get it.
here,
Yeah. I get it.
drinking
Yeah.
and smoking, and
I
you're
get it. Yeah.
you're making, people feel like uncomfortable. They're already in a vulnerable place coming in here. A lot of people
Right.
have really serious
No, I
stuff
get it.
going on, and this is just, we're trying to make everything work for everyone here.
Right.
And that's,
Okay. That's the
that's
reason
usually not well received.
well, yeah, the reason I asked this is because I think that there's two things to think about. The first thing to think about is your own Dharma practice and peace of mind. And then the other part of it is protecting the unhoused people and protecting your customers. So there's two things going on here. Something that I would recommend for sort of healing your heart is to something that Kempo Karthar Rinpoche suggested doing, and that is doing practice specifically for the people who are causing you problems. And because it is 9:30 and this is the stated end time, I think we may not have time to get others involved in the conversation. But needless to say, I would first recommend that that on a daily basis you do whatever mantra practice makes you, it makes your heart sing, and then see the deity of that practice blessing these particular people. Because while you're blessing them, you can't hate on them. That's one. But then there's the pragmatic side of things. And there's another practice that Kempo Rinpoche taught as well, but we just don't have time for me to share it here. But the other thing that I would suggest, and this is more on the practical side, I would contact your local two people. I would call your local uh, shelter board and talk with them about the situation and ask what they recommend to businesses. And it's very possible that you might also see if they have caseworkers and ask them, and then you might be able to have a three-way conversation with their caseworker and figure out other alternatives for them other than hanging out in front of your shop. So those are just practical things, because it is sounding like there's a lot of danger for escalation. And there may be unskillfulness on the part of some of your customers or the unhoused people. So you have to really start thinking about what's the best way to help, because we can have compassion, but we also have to have wisdom. Kemper Rinpoche said this. He said, you have to have compassion and wisdom, sort of an equal measure. Because if you have lots of compassion, but not a lot of wisdom, it's easy to make mistakes. So I'm happy to talk to you offline about this. You can write to me and we can talk some more. Let's see here. I'm putting my email in the chat. Okay. And then let's see, Columbus KTC. Yeah, okay. And you can write to me and then we can continue the discussion. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, because I completely understand this. Okay, and I am sorry we can't go deeper with it tonight. But the main
No,
thing is to
thank you.
try to sort of protect your heart by finding ways to bless them from a safe distance. And then working on practical solutions with people who have so much more experience and wisdom in working with folks on the street. And so because we've experienced this at Columbus KTC, because we're also in an urban area, and we've gotten help from the caseworkers, actually, of some of the unhoused people we've worked with. And then we've also made connections with the local police precinct and come up with some good strategies there as well. So, and the shelter board, we've contacted them also. So hopefully there's some, way that you can work to bring a peace both to your heart and to your customers. So that's what I'll be praying for.
All right, thank you.
No, thank you. We'll all be praying for you for sure.
Yeah, and for them. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I've worked with our local shelter to some extent with these folks and others who are around the shop, and I think for a lot of those folks, they don't want to go to the shelter. The shelter that we have here in Gainesville is it's a long story, but it's not everybody wants to be there. I'm worried about the unskillful means of the police department too. I mean, I really don't want anything bad to happen.
No, I understand that. But this is why I'd like to talk offline on this, because there are so many other strategies. That's when I talked about the shelter board, it's something different. I don't want you to tell them to go to a shelter. I want to talk about resources for helping them. And the shelter people know so many resources, more than we know, and they can help us navigate. So hopefully that will be helpful to you as well.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks a lot. Mucho Tongme Zampo. Thank you very much, Joseph. I appreciate your Googling. He lived 1295 to 1369. So he was after Atisha for sure. And Longri Tongpa was 1054 to 1123. And Chikawa was 1102 to 1176. So yeah, Ngujal Tongme lived after them. And so thank you very much. I appreciate you helping me place him in time. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate your patience with the change in the wind and the loss of signal and everything else. And I just really appreciate all of you. Let's gather together all of our merit and accumulate and that we've accumulated and dedicate it. I'm going to ask Yunten to share some prayers with us so we can recite them. Okay, let's see. We'll start with these particular prayers. O Jiao Kun Nin Che Ran Zu Karma Pa Kiao Kun Trin Le Chi Du Karma Pa Gyao kun dun so wan kurs karma pa. Or general du trin lei shap ten so. Sunam di tam che zipani. Tom ne nye pedranam pam chen ke ga na chi palap tru pai. Si be so le droar sho. Jam pa pa wo ji tar ken pa tang. Kun tu zampo de an de jinte. De da kun ki che su da lo ching. Ge wa di da tam che rap tu ngo. Sanje kusum ne pe jin la tan. Chu ni min jer den pe jin la dang. Gan dun mi che dun pe jin la ki. Ji tar ngo wa mun lam dru par sho. Du ji le jiao jiao wei trin le pa. Karma pa ten ten pe ning po di. Cho tar kun chop chop chin chun mi che. Ta para pel pel wei tarashi sho. Okay, thanks everyone. It's wonderful to see you, and thank you, Lama Mark, for the translation. Thank you, Yunten, host with the most, and we will see you all. Okay, Omani Pei Hung. Hey, all right. I see all my friends. They're waving. Okay, take care, everyone. Have a great evening.